Welcome back to Volunteer Homesteading. In this video, I'm going to walk through how I set up an irrigation system for my garden, including how I set up the lines, how it works in each bed, and even the theory and math behind it all. I ordered my system from Drip Depot. They have a bunch of different kits that you can customize depending on your needs. I went with a raised bed kit for 6 beds and a tree kit for 20 trees, and then did a little mixing and matching to make sure I'd have all the parts I needed, but not too much left over at the end. To do that, I had to design the system I wanted, and yes, I am nerdy enough to have sketched it out on graph paper to scale. Well, it came in yesterday. This box contains my new irrigation system. Okay, so this is kind of cool. They sent me some lollipops. All right, well, I just reviewed the list and it looks like I've got everything. So I've got 3 100-foot rolls of half-inch tubing. I've got 100-foot roll of 1/4-inch tubing. I've got 2 different kinds of drip line over here. Then I've got the end caps, the elbows, the T's, the valves. I've got the clamps and the stakes to hold stuff down, and then all the different little pieces that I'll be showing in a minute for how things come together. So, time to assemble. All right, so here's how we put together the header assembly. This is the hose line coming in with the water. It's a standard 3/4-inch garden hose, and we're going to first attach it to basically a backflow regulator. This is a vacuum breaker in this case. So this will go onto the hose itself, followed by, this is an inline filter, and it's really just to make sure that you don't get stuff gunked up into your system, because you would not want to have to go trace, several hundred feet worth of hose to figure out where something is if it got stuck in there. And then after that, we're going to add pressure regulator, and this pressure regulator is going to keep it to 25 psi, which the system is designed to be able to handle. And then the last piece will be this adapter, which will take it from a 3/4-inch hose setup into the half-inch tubing that'll be for the whole system. So here we are. The head assembly piece is put together, and Abernathy is patiently guarding it. I'm not entirely sure what from, but I'm always glad to have her services out in the garden. And it goes into a T-splitter, because to the right we're going to be heading out to where some of the berry bushes are and some tomato plants I put in the corner fencing, and to the left it's going to go out to the garden beds, but we'll do a walkthrough on that later on. So here we've brought the line out to the first bed, and just to kind of give you an idea of how this setup's going together. So the main feed comes in here, and it comes to this T-splitter, and then the T-splitter takes it up into the bed, and we use this elbow couple to get it over the edge. Most other beds will probably need 2 elbow couples, but this one I only need 1. And then a valve, and then that line that goes out to the other end, and eventually that'll get anchored down. And probably on the other beds I'm going to try to put the valve on the side. I saw Kevin Espiritu at Epic Gardening had redone it where he put that on the side, and I thought that made a lot more sense, but there just wasn't enough room on this particular bed. Here's how the tubing goes in, and this is kind of the idea across the way. So at each one of these end pieces here, you just pull that back as far as it'll go. It kind of rolls back. It's very easy. This is the only part that takes a good bit of effort. Getting this tubing on does require a bit of force. There we go. Sometimes you can just put the end of the tubing into some warm water and that'll soften it up. I could have done that, but I don't know. Am I being lazy by not? Is it lazy to have to use more force? I don't know. That's roughly how that goes. So here we are in the herb bed. I'm going to walk through how we put the irrigation system into a particular bed. I think this will be the easiest one to see. Okay, so there's this punch that is going to put holes into the main tube that the drip line is going to come out from. And I'm going to do 3 lines per bed. Since I'm doing 3, I could do 1 in the middle, and then 1 each in the middle of that. And then into that hole goes one of these connector plugs. Oh, it's a satisfying snap. Okay, then we'll connect that with the drip tape. Well, I guess it's on there. Okay. to help spread the tube out, we can probably also go ahead and like hammer this down to hold it in place so it'll be nice and stable for us. Well, I'm going to try one right here, definitely one on the end, but I'm going to try to give it some more stability. Okay, there we go. Here. Good. Okay. Now we can run the line. Okay, one line is in. Add another. Yeah, nailing it down first. Very smart idea. Okay, now we'll go to the other end and I'll show you how I fix up the other end of this. Okay, so down at this end, there's two ways we could do this. We could take each line and cap it with what's called a goof plug. And that was the original idea, but then I figured I don't really have a good way to like hold it in place. And again, pulling ideas from Epic Gardening, when he redid his irrigation system, he put a footer row on it, and that gave it a lot more stability and made it a lot easier to kind of anchor down. So I'm going to do basically the same thing here, and I'm going to use a few other connector pieces. Uh-oh, and I think I just dropped one of them somehow. But I've got these elbow pieces that are going to be on the ends. There we go. Let's go and get this other corner piece in, or elbow piece in. Ah! These are harder to put in than you would think. I guess that's good. You want them to be secure. I mean, they've got to make a watertight seal. All right, and then for the middle one, we're going to do this little T connector. And then for the footer row, we're not using drip tape, but we're using the same diameter. So we're using a 1/4-inch tube. It's the same kind of tube, same thickness, just there's no emitter holes in it. But it'll be to kind of hold it together and make a grid. Okay, then what I did is I went down to the other end where I had first punched the holes and just cut a strip to the right length. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this in half. And I'm not worried about extreme precision, so ballpark is totally fine. There we go. And then this will connect in. So here's one side with its elbow. Make sure that's really secure. Okay, that's on there. And then that end is going to go into the T. And then we'll take the other piece and put it into the other side of the T. There we go, that's good. And then we'll come around to the last piece. I'll figure out how to fit this around the plants properly in a second. We'll put the other elbow in. Okay. Now, fit it in around the plants. Okay, and then for the last piece, we're going to use some of these clamps to help really secure it and hold it in place. Cool. I probably could have made these just a little longer, so they set a little more flush with the board. Notes for next time. Okay, and we might just be securing that with only two. All right, let's get a look at the thing from above. All right, so here we have one bed with its complete irrigation system set in. So the way it works is the water's coming in from over here on this side, and it comes here and comes up the side and through these corners, and then here's the valve. So this is open, or if I want to, I can close it if I don't need to water that bed for some reason, but normally I'll leave it open. And then the water comes in along this line, and then it branches off from all three of those hoses you see coming off. But the water comes all the way down all three of those. And then, a little hard to see from the plant, but there's one corner, and there's a T, and there's hiding behind the strawberry. There's another corner. And so that's a whole closed system there. So, now to do that for all the other beds. Wait a second.
How do I know how much tubing and parts and whatnot I'm going to need? Well, time to go back to those middle and high school math classes. We got to do some math.
When we talk about rainfall, we usually measure it in inches of rain, which is kind of weird because an inch is a measure of distance, but water really comes in a volume. But an inch of rain simply means a cubic inch of liquid for every square inch of surface area. Now imagine that this tray of starts represents a garden bed out in your yard. And let's imagine that you could somehow capture all of the rainfall that came in a container of the exact same size bottom as this bed. If so, an inch of rain would come up exactly 1 inch that container's side. And that is great when it is raining and everything is getting wet, but it is not how we measure water volume when we irrigate a space. We need to turn an inch of rain into gallons of water. And to do that, we need to do some simple conversions. Now, a gallon of water is equal to 231 cubic inches. So if you have an area that's 231 square inches, and that gets an inch of rain, then it's the same as saying that it got a gallon of water. And just for reference, this tray is a little bit smaller than that. It actually measures 10.5 by 21 inches, which comes out to 220 square inches. So an area just slightly bigger than this seed start tray would actually be that area in question to make an inch of rain be a gallon of water for that surface area. But that is a really weird number to work with, isn't it?
A good rule of thumb for vegetables is an inch of rain per week. So your vegetable garden needs about a gallon of water for every 231 square inches of bed space. But most of us measure our beds in feet, so we need to do one more conversion.
All of my beds are 4 feet wide by 8 feet long.
Okay, hold on. We can be more precise than that. My frames are 4 feet wide, but the soil in the bed only stretches 45 inches. So 45 inches times 8 feet, which is 96 inches, equals 4,320 square inches. And if every 231 square inches needs a gallon of water, some simple division tells us that each of my beds needs 18.7 gallons of water per week. Now, I'm setting up an irrigation system where each bed will have 3 sections of drip line running the length of the bed. The drip line has an emitter every 6 inches, and each emitter emits 1/2 gallon of water per hour. So, 2 emitters times 8 feet times 3 lines times 1/2 gallon means that I'm going to be getting 24 gallons of water every hour for each bed. When the system is running, I can expect each bed to get this much, but I don't need that much water. I only need 18.7 gallons per week per bed. So let's do some simple division again. 18.7 divided by 24, and I need to run the system for 0.779 hours or 46 minutes and 45 seconds to be able to get the amount of water that I need every week. And that assumes there's been no rain in the last week, so if there's been rain, I just need to adjust. If we let R equal the amount of rain in inches that we've had in the past week, then I need to water the system for 46 3/4 times 1 minus R minutes. No rain? Well, then R equals 0. So 1 minus R is 1, and 1 times 46 3/4 is 46 3/4. So I need to run the thing for that full block of time. But let's say I got a 1/4 inch of rain that week. So now R equals 0.25. 1 minus 0.25 is 0.75. 46.75 times 0.75 is 35.0625. So I need to run the system for about 35 minutes. Well, 35 minutes and 3 3/4 seconds, whatever. And that's it. Now, if you're setting up your own system, you will obviously need to do your own math. And if your beds aren't uniform like mine are, then each bed might need a different amount of time, which means having a shutoff valve for each bed is essential to avoid over or underwatering.
What about for the trees? How are we going to make it work for the orchard? Well, same kind of idea, except we're not going to be running lengths, we're going to be putting loops around the tree. And in this case, I've got another drip tape. This one's actually spaced at every 12 inches rather than every 6 inches like for the garden beds. And I've just cut a strip to 4 feet long, which should give me a nice little ring around the base of my tree. The way we're going to do this is we're going to use a T connector, and we'll connect it basically to itself so that it makes a nice circle. There we go. And then we're going to go back to our 1/4-inch tubing, not drip tape, just regular tubing. And we'll go ahead and connect one end of it into this. So it sort of looks like we've lassoed the tree. And then we'll bring this out to the line. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. Good. Let's go ahead and put this in so I don't lose it. This will be the piece that connects into the main line. Come back. These things are surprisingly easy to lose. They are so small and they blend in, so I'm having to be really careful to keep track of stuff. And then we'll use our punch. Okay. Good. And then this just connects right in like a snap. And then there we go. We've put a drip line out to the tree. And then, for good measure, we can use one of these hooks just to help kind of hold it in place roughly where we want it. And that's it. Now, our peach tree is going to be getting some nice water when we run the system. And good little irrigation set around its root base.
Now, how does that math play out for the trees? Well, Stark Brothers says that a new fruit tree needs about 1 gallon of water per week during the growing season, a bit more as it puts on more leaves. I set up my system to give each tree a drip line with about a 4-foot circumference. So in this case, I'm using a different drip line than for the garden beds. These emitters also release water at a rate of 1/2 gallon per hour, but they are spaced every 12 inches. So each tree has 4 emitters, meaning it will get 2 gallons of water for every hour that the system runs. But if it only needs about 1 gallon of water, then assuming there's been no rain, it only needs to run for 30 minutes. If I leave those valves open the full 3/4 hour that I'm giving my beds, I might end up overwatering the trees. And that might be okay in the heat of the summer, so I'll keep an eye on it. But in general, I'll probably want to close those valves early. And if there's been rain, well, same idea as before. But now I need 30 times 1 minus R minutes of operation. Why do I keep talking about this by week? Shouldn't I water my plants every day, or at least every other day? For a lot of houseplants, maybe. But for in-ground crops, it's better to water less frequently, but more intensely. All that water you put in is going to get absorbed by the soil. As the top layer of soil gets saturated, it will sink down and get absorbed by the next layer, almost like filling a bus from the front. As the plant uses up the water up top, its natural instinct will be to send roots out further in search of water. If you give the plant a little bit of water every day, it never has a reason to really grow its roots. It's sort of like always giving a child every little thing he or she asks for. Sure, the child is happy when it gets what it wants, but also kind of spoiled as they never learn how to deal with challenges. You're better off giving the child everything he or she needs, but not necessarily everything they may want. Make them earn some things, and they'll grow up more resilient. And it's similar with plants. Give them all the water they need, but make them work just a little bit to get it. They will grow deeper, stronger root systems, and they'll be healthier for it. Stronger roots mean better able to withstand challenges, such as wind or pests. It also means better ability to support above-ground growth, which should mean more production of food. So definitely give your plants and your children what they need. Just don't spoil them rotten.
Okay, the system is installed. Time to turn it on and see how it does. So we are off and running, and I've set a timer. All right, so the hose comes in here. This is the intake assembly, and then to the right carries on out to the berry bushes, and then along the fence line where it's kind of hard to see from here, but I threw down a bunch of extra tomato starts and decorative gourds, which are in the squash family. But I've got the blackberries and blueberries over there, and they have their rings. Let's see if the water is coming through. Not yet. Okay, better check a valve, make sure I left it open. I left it open. So I figured out the problem. I forgot I had put this splitter in so I could have a line that still went out to the extending hose out at the other side. I had it set the wrong way. As soon as I switched it over, I could hear the thing come on right away. Right, then off to the left, we head off to the herb bed, and then out to the other beds. So we can see kind of the run view of the herb bed, and all the beds look like that. There's a lot more a lot more grown in. And then out here it goes several ways, so it splits into the west bed and up to the fence where I have the raspberries and some other tomatoes and gourds. And then it comes down and hits all the other beds and then continues a little bit further south into the orchard. And so you kind of see how it runs down. And then that line that's in this view on the left here, I decided to extend it further because I planted ginger just on the other side of the fence. It's got reasonable shade throughout the day, and ginger likes mostly dappled sunlight. So I went ahead and just extended the line down there. So here we are, 46 minutes and 45 seconds later. And, you know, if you look at the top, it certainly looks like spotted and all, right? It's like wet where the water was coming out, but dry in other spots. But I'm gonna bet if we come down here and dig a little bit down, well, okay, didn't spread out quite as far as, oh, yeah, it did actually. Can't really see it, but as deep as my finger is, I feel the wetness down there. So it's definitely spreading out down below, which is what we want. And it may spread more over the next little bit. It might just need time to like finish permeating through. Irrigation system up and running. Close up on Abernathy, guardian of the garden, waiting for any intruder that may attempt to come in and take our vegetables. And she would probably just bark at them and then lick them. But she's still doing her job.